is the iPhone 6 Plus, released in 2014, loved by millions, and now completely outdated. But today, in 2025, I'm going to use this as my main phone for an entire day. Social media, work, camera, everything. I might regret this. Yep, this is happening. I'm shamelessly using a decade-old phone in 2025. This phone was once the crush phone of its time, and now, well, it's more like your embarrassing uncle at a wedding. I tried transferring my photos, to-do lists, and all my work apps, but guess what? Almost all of them aren't even supported anymore. Instagram? Nope. X, Snapchat, YouTube, Skype? Forget it. Even Google Drive gave up on me. So, yeah. This is really starting to feel like an abacus or a bar phone at this point. But let's be honest, the design, it's clean. This aluminum body still feels premium, and the build quality, it screams durability. This thing is built like a tank, sturdy, reliable, and tough as nails. But it runs like a tank too, slow, heavy, and definitely not built for speed. In 2014, this camera was great. An 8-megapixel rear shooter and a 1.2 megapixel front camera, iconic. This is how the front camera looks like. I'm actually quite impressed. Fun fact, the iPhone 6 Plus also doubles as a hand warmer. After just 20 minutes of web browsing, this thing got hot. Like, did I accidentally put it in the oven? Nostalgia's great and all, but I didn't sign up for a pocket furnace. And since none of the actual apps work, I had to use Safari for Instagram, YouTube, and even email. On the plus side, I was off social media most of the day, which was kind of refreshing. What a casual way to seek mindfulness. This iPhone was revolutionary back in the day. A 5.5-inch screen in 2014, that was basically a tablet. And while it looks sleek and smooth, it also looks like it skipped leg day compared to today's behemoths. The bezels are massive, a clear reminder of an older design philosophy. The screen, impressive for its era, now feels like trying to enjoy a sunset through a narrow window. But the build quality? Absolute chef's kiss. Apart from that, I wanted to see if anyone would notice me using this ancient artifact. Well, it's safe to say the iPhone 6 Plus is still a conversation starter. Whether it's nostalgia, curiosity, or pure disbelief, people can't help but take notice. The reactions? Absolutely priceless. Walking around with the iPhone 6 Plus in 2025 felt like carrying a flip phone in 2010. A mix of nostalgia and disbelief. Some people couldn't help but laugh. Others gave me that classic, seriously bro, look. And a surprising few genuinely respected it, appreciating the throwback to a simpler, iconic time in tech history. It's amazing how a piece of outdated tech can spark so many different emotions. Okay, confession time. I couldn't resist. After hours of frustration, I started poking around for a workaround, and guess what? If you sign in with an Apple ID that's already been used on other Apple devices, you get the option to download the last compatible version of certain apps. Suddenly, these apps became usable, but as these are older versions, so they are not exactly snappy or packed with modern features. But hey, they work, and at this point, that's a win. The iPhone 6 Plus can still shoot 1080p at 60 fps, which was buttery smooth back in the day. But in 2025, it's like an elderly marathon runner, which is admirable but not without a few stumbles. Missing frames, shaky footage, and stabilization that's, let's just say, optional. But hey, for a decade-old phone, it's not bad. They've got that dreamy vintage vibe. Sure, there's a delay when you press the shutter, so if you move, you'll end up with a Monet painting instead of a selfie. But honestly, I kind of love it. For comparison, here's a side-by-side with a slightly more modern phone. The difference in detail and color is obvious, but you can't really call the iPhone 6 Plus photos bad. Nostalgia points earned. That smooth aluminum body, those curved edges, and the precision-engineered details. It was a phone that felt as good as it looked. The subtle antenna lines on the back, the gently protruding camera bump, and the iconic Touch ID button gave it a character that was both premium and approachable. But running on iOS 12 in 2025 feels a bit like trying to run a marathon in flip-flops. It's technically possible, but nobody's having a good time. Apps take forever to open, like you're waiting for Windows 98 to boot up after a system crash. There's a lot of waiting, and everything just takes its good enough time to load. Multitasking? Forget it. This thing can barely task once. Switching between apps is like asking your grandpa to juggle while walking a tightrope. You'll get there eventually, just with a lot of nervous energy and patience. Fast forward to 2025, and while the design still holds up in terms of durability, it feels undeniably dated. The bezel's chunky by today's edge-to-edge standards, and the size, which once seemed massive, now it feels modest compared to modern flagships. But there's an undeniable charm to its simplicity. There are no camera humps large enough to double as a table stand, no flashy finishes or overwhelming branding, just clean, purposeful design. Believe it or not though, I managed to squeeze out about 6 hours of screen on time. That's impressive for something this old. And charging. Lightning cable only. No MagSafe, no fast charging, just patience. Back in the day, Touch ID was the coolest thing ever. A fingerprint scanner that actually worked. And you know what? It still does. Sure, it's slower compared to modern biometric systems, but it's reliable and oddly satisfying to use. It's like the rotary phone of fingerprint tech, charmingly old school. Back in 2014, the 5.5-inch Full HD IPS LCD was the thing. People couldn't stop gawking at how big it was. Fast forward to 2025 and it just feels normal. Quality-wise, it's not bad at all. The colors are vivid, not accurate, but vivid. And while it doesn't have a 120Hz refresh rate, the animations and UI feel surprisingly smooth. Of course, if you were to compare it to the Galaxy Note 4 of the same era, the iPhone 6 Plus would have been roasted like marshmallows at a campfire. But in 2025, it holds its own. Barely. Okay, not everything about this phone is terrible. The speakers, still loud enough to fill a room. That iconic mute switch, still as satisfying to flick as ever. Sure, it's outdated and slow, but this thing was built to last. And that's something you can't say about a lot of modern phones. So, would I use the iPhone 6 Plus as my main phone throughout 2025? Absolutely not. But would I do this again? Also, no. Let me know in the comments. What was your first iPhone? And would you survive a day using it in 2025? Also, hit that like button if you enjoy the suffering. See you in the next one.